Hey friends! Welcome to the Drug Prevention Power Hour, where we empower leaders in youth drug prevention. After creating a student-led movement hosting epic, drug-free events across the nation, your host, Jake White, dedicated himself to making the prevention field more fun, impactful, and relevant for today's youth. So if you're in education, counseling, public health, prevention, or just a caring adult looking for strategies to protect your kids, we hope you subscribe and learn from every show. Coming to you from Jake White and his team at Vive 18, enjoy this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour. Now, I am just meeting our guest for the first time, but when I read his bio, I knew that we needed to meet each other. Our passions and missions are aligned, and he's going to give us one of his frameworks that I'm really, really excited about, because whenever you come across a tool that's just helpful for a conversation or a team meeting or just for opening up your perspective, for me, it's something that you just want to explore and you might want to use. So we're gonna go through it today with him, but I'm gonna open it up with some intrigue, okay? Because you're not gonna believe our story that's gonna come from today from Adam. So you know what, Adam? Let me ask you this before. How do you pronounce your last name? Let's start there.
If it was phonetic, it would be K-A-Y, capitals,
Okay.
6, lowercase, Kasix.
Kasix. All right, cool.
Kasix.
Yeah. All right. So, without any further ado, you've got to hear this. So, Adam Kasix, from bedwetter to top trauma nurse to IV drug addict to losing his family. He was confronted with a life and death ultimatum that helped him wake up and take back his life. After getting derailed by combat-related post-traumatic stress, Adam was forced into a darkness he couldn't have imagined, battling paranoia, trigger-ready rage, and suicidal thoughts. It was in the diving into his own darkness that he found tools of light, and today, Adam and his original bride, Nikki, who he calls his two-time wife, give their professional lives to the lifting of others. They lead their 4 kids, ages 13 to 21, by the best example they can to do the same. Adam is fiercely committed to 4 things: God, Nikki, his kids, and you. And, well, mint chocolate chip ice cream. I love that addition.
Thanks.
So, Adam, welcome to the show. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today.
Jake, I am honored, man. I am super pumped.
Yes, and I have to say this because I was out with some clients getting dinner after a conference recently, and they made fun of me for liking mint chocolate chip. They said it was like toothpaste ice cream. Can you believe that?
I am so glad it's not more popular.
That's right. We get double helpings because you don't like it. So, Amber and Amy, if you listen to the show, I got another one on my team. All right, mint chocolate chip.
In.
Let's go. So, Adam, can you kind of give us your story, man? I know it's a short podcast, but take us there to your moments that you want to highlight so we can get to know you and your passion behind what you do.
After all this wild journey, hearing you say a portion of it is on my end it's always a little bit jarring. And I realize when I got into my early 20s, I got licensed as a licensed practical nurse. That was my first nursing license. So you're a little bit limited in scope with that. You don't have your full registered nurse yet. But when I got that, I was 19 years old. And I was in the Army. I was in a fast track program. We did the program with them. We came into our civilian world. We took our state boards and we got our licenses. And so I had some extra money at 19, just before I turned 20. I'm a nurse. But I was never, the way that I like to say it is that I was a born dreamer, raised blue collar. And for anybody who's a divergent type of personality, you kind of go off the track from the regular established norms. Conformity, that's not really your thing. Being raised in an environment that's contrary to your soul's wiring can create it can create a really hectic storm inside, especially if you don't know that's going on. And I definitely did not know that. So these days, what I like to say is that I help people overcome mistaken identity. So we know about this idea of mistaken identity, and a person was murdered, mistaken identity, gang hits. You hear things like this, movies, mistaken identity. But I believe the Lord showed me something in what happened to me through the writing of the book that is coming out sometime down the road. And that is, I took on the identity of the people that were raising me, like we all do. It's called conditioning. It's called upbringing and programming. And so I realized that when I became a nurse and I started feeling these feelings of conflict inside, and I didn't know what to do with it, I didn't know where to go with it. There was no one around me. It was just like my dad's a truck driver and my mom's an office manager. Good people. They stayed with me. They supported and provided for me, but they were raised off the curb in Detroit. You know what I mean? Like, they did not have any kind of higher thinking awareness at all. It was go to work and work hard. And that's what they did. That got programmed into me, but I felt this feeling for something big. I wanted to go out and explore the world. I wanted to help people. I wanted to sit and cry with them for some reason and have coffee if they needed that, because I love being able to support like that. And so, but I ended up in this spot where my outside life was completely misaligned with what I felt in my soul. And then that started my downward path towards seeking escapism, which actually happened through affairs. And then that led to drugs months later. And I say that I've realized I used the drugs to numb the self-betrayal and the betrayal of my wife from my behavior at work. And so I had this mistaken identity that I was operating with. I'm the nurse. I'll show up. I'll go to a meeting. I'll be in a suit and I'll do all the things that you want me to do. But it wasn't really who I was. And I just had zero tools to deal with that. So that's the intro, I guess. I don't know. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, that does help give a better understanding, because you've been through these highs and these lows, like very, very dramatic highs and lows.
Yes.
I think of when we hear stories that I look at, me, I feel like everyone feels special, but they also feel average. So I'm like, oh man, I don't have this crazy testimony like that or something, which I think is fine. It's fine. We all have we have a route for a reason, and we're meant for different things. And so when I heard your intro, I was like, I got to at least dive a little bit deeper. But let me ask you this. You mentioned that, you have PTSD and you had symptoms of that, and life today is a little better. What are some tools that have really helped you?
We'll say, so not to correct you on your own show, but I actually didn't say I had PTSD, not
Okay.
PTSD. And here's the reason I do this. I kind of set everybody up as a friendly prank, and everybody steps in the trap. And it allows me to help people. It allows me to help people get a little bit more permission and to relax if they do deal with things that come from trauma or addiction or dramatic relationship failures, hardcore seasonal transitions like coming out of the military, going into civilian life. I've done a lot of training on that and for those people. And so I realized one day I sat down with a therapist when this came. I lived 3 years after Afghanistan before I knew that something actually had taken place that was empirical inside me. It was actually real. And I thought I was just irritable because I had seen some stuff or I had done some stuff. But I just thought it was that. It was actually another friend who goes, hey, it might be this. He's like, I went and talked to the VA person. You might want to check it out. So I go and I start checking out the therapy there. And I just threw myself off on my train of thought. It was where we are today. Oh, they told me that I was going to have this disorder. That's the D of post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people might use disease, but I learned it as disorder. And they said, you'll always have this. You don't have an option. And then another person who was a Marine colonel, he was not a civilian like the first person. They were going off their theoretical knowledge and their experience, and I respected it. The other guy, the Marine colonel, he said, when you go over there, and this can happen in other situations. I have a friend who was raped. I have a friend who was burglarized in the middle of the day with a knife in her home, in her kitchen. like because I'm meeting different authors with different stories, so I'm hearing these wild stories. So it can be any of these things. And he said, when you went there, you went into their land where they've been doing this for decades as a terrorist cell or whatever they do. He said, and what happens is you're in their world, their atmosphere, and and this is his language. He said, they install demons in us. Then we come home, but don't know that they're in there. So that's the way he put it. And I'm like, okay, well, I do believe in spiritual warfare, so maybe there's some aspect to that, but I didn't buy into either one of those. But what I did do was I remembered hearing a mentor tell me that I could make choices in my life, that I had the power to choose. There was two things: my actions and my attitude were the only things that I had any control over truly in this world. And I'm like, okay, so my action and my attitude was to reject their opinion for my life.
Yes.
And I said, I might have something that altered me forever. That's okay. That doesn't mean I have a disorder. That means I have something to work harder at and overcome to become even better. And it reminds me of like Julian Edelman with the New England Patriots back when I used to watch them 10, 15 years ago. Julian Edelman, least like talent, small. Dude, I don't know if he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame, but dude won Super Bowls, part of the greatest dynasty ever, arguable, all this stuff. I'm not a huge like football guy, but I just know that story. And so I'm like, I can overcome this without having the talent or the smooth road that I don't get to have, because this was my story. And so the disorder piece, I want to tell people, you decide that in your own mind, whether you accept that or you reject that from someone else. And it doesn't mean if you reject it, you're pissing on them or you're disrespecting them. It means you choose not to let their belief become your mind frame. That's what it means.
Dude,
so
that's powerful. That's so powerful.
It's
I think
huge as a presupposition to start with. That's why I took a little minute on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think if there's a lesson to be learned is, number one, language matters, because as a common thing, I put the D on there because I wrote post-traumatic stress. So common language norms would say, oh yeah, PTSD. And what's cool about it though is that you've had experiences and great mentors and relationships where you could learn that a disorder is something that someone else said about you. It's more of like a label, whereas you know it as, no, this is my body's response to what happened to me, and I have a choice on whether I carry that forward or if I change it. And so to me, that's really cool and powerful, because I'm all about how can we learn from our experiences. And I think if we're going to change our culture and a generation, if we're going to represent our values, it's going to challenge what people think. And that's going to be tough. We're going to have to change language. We're going to have to inspire people. And like you said, your choices and your attitude are the things that you're in control of. So let's focus on that, not on the outside stuff we can't control. So there was you got us we got a mini inspirational talk right there too, just about what's important to you. I love that.
Yeah, I always hope to inspire and equip at the same time. I don't want to just do rah-rah, because I know that I can motivate people. Like I with the emotion. I learned to stop leaning on that a long time ago and build substance into the natural energy that I bring. But yeah, I'm glad. I hope so, because that was a huge thing for me, and I had never heard anybody else say that before about post-traumatic stress in particular. So we're not stuck. So then this tool Radar comes up, right? Like, and by the way, that was sometime after the IV drug addiction, and I don't know how much you want to get into that, but there was morphine, there was Dilaudid, fentanyl, opiates, Vicodin, Tylenol 3, you name it.
Yeah.
But that was there in the past, and that's all being described down the road, and I do talk about it in other places. So, I guess I don't mean to interview you, but which route do you want to go?
Well, you know what? I think just the fact is you're a miracle. The fact that you're here is a miracle. Yes, it's a testament to God, and something you still have to do. And part of that is the work that you're doing. So explain that. What is one by one? What's that?
Well, it's one of one.
One of one. What's that mean?
So if you get a painting and there was only 125 ever made, at the bottom in the back usually, or at the bottom in the front, it'll say 1 or 7 or 48 of 125. I wear this hat not because I'm cocky anymore, because that's not really there. Every now and again, if sports are on. But that 1 of 1 is to remind everybody. I only wear it when I get to be on certain types of shows or in certain types of stages or environments. And I wear it in front of a lot of kids in support of people with younger people, because everybody needs to remember one of the ways you stay away from the trap of mistaken identity is to remember that you're the only one that's ever existed. That's you. That's like you, the concoction of you, the gifts, the skills, the talents, the fears, the worries, the anxieties, the way your body responds, the people surrounding you, all of the deal. You might have so much in common and kindred spirits with other people. You and I have a connection. I know it's already here. Like we're even a generation apart, and I'll make sure that you stay young. But like 1 of 1, everybody needs to know that was his plan when he put you together. God, your father, your creator, right? Your source. And so I wear that for that. And it also goes with my brand of being an instigator, because people will look at that. And if you're not my person and you got an attitude with the way that I do things, you're probably going to look at that and say, oh, he's an arrogant jerk. I don't need him. And I'm like, okay, we got that person out of the way. Let's talk to our real family here. And that's part of my intention, so anyway.
That's good. Before I ask you about radar, I'm going to riff off you a little bit, because I like what you said there. And there's a theme that I think we can help instill in our young people, which is, I can't say it better than you just did. You have a design, you're created for certain things.
Say it your way.
I'm going to recap it, but you have that design. You're created for a certain way with gifts and abilities. And there's people in your life who need you to show up, not for you, but for them. And what I think that you just recapped so well is that you become a magnet to the people that you're supposed to interact with. And a magnet, when you turn it around, it repels people. So you're going to repel certain people. And as a young person, that's okay. And I was just giving this training on how to be like a great youth advisor for your student-led club. And one of the things, as quote, older folks, anytime we feel out of touch with young people, we get scared and think, oh, I have to start wearing certain clothes or talking a certain way. And I'm like, no, please do not do that. Students don't need another teenager in their life in an older person's body. They need an adult with values who cares about them and who's confident in who they are, so that you can show up. And here's the sticky thing. If you're comfortable enough with your flaws and your differences, you give them permission to be comfortable enough with theirs. And that's the resilience it takes to resist drugs and pressure and risky behavior, and to put your priorities and your values first and live unapologetically. So I had to piggyback off you, man. And that's such a good lesson for people to understand and know, and to be able to communicate.
Yep.
So can you tell us, because your framework is a way to communicate, your radar framework, and I just barely got to see it on your website, but can you explain, you developed this thing for a certain reason, a certain purpose. What is the radar framework for? And then can you walk us through it?
Yeah. And I'm going to try to knock this down in is 5 minutes okay for that?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Is that good? So
five is good.
I'm going to do it, and I'm going to run the timer, because if I don't,
I can relate to that.
I was born to talk, brother, and I like hearing it most of the time. So look, I get red when it's the truth, and I'm joking. But okay, so a little story to lead into this. My wife and I this was in 2022, and that was the 10 years since I came home from Afghanistan, that what I call ground zero of post-traumatic stress. My 4th child was born 30 hours after I got off the plane. My other one was 14 months old when I got home. He was 5 months when I left, and I have 2 others now. I had already had the 2 older ones. So I came back in, all that was there, a lot. And then I go 3 years without knowing all this is going on and festering in me and getting worse, because I didn't know, I wasn't aware it was there. Pay attention, people. I'm setting up the program. I wasn't aware. I had blind spots. have you ever, and to some people, if they got the stomach for it, I call it sneaky ass sabotage. Anybody ever feel like they get their feet wiped out from underneath them right when you're on a good track and you're like, what was that? How did that just happen? And so that's why I call it that. And mainly because it's fun, and I want people to remember it, that radar is this tool, right? So fast forward, we hadn't been on vacation in a long time. And I said, we're going to go on honeymoon 2.0. And we were going to go to the Dominican Republic. And so we did. I had hats made, and I got one that said 25 years, even though it was our 21st. We were going on we had just had our 20th anniversary of our wedding, of our total marriage years together. We got a messed up story, man. So we're a couple decades in, and we're going to go on this trip. We go on the trip, then we go down to the beach, and we see one of these little shops that you see in a Caribbean nation. The shacks, the straw huts, the tarps, little cases and trinkets and necklaces and hair braiding, all the stuff. And I didn't realize when we walked up to it that I got triggered. I didn't know I got triggered. I only got triggered once I stood there for a minute realizing, damn, this feels a lot like Afghanistan. The way that the third world feel of the shops and the bazaar and the little alleyways that were made of dust and the little bicycles, it had a lot of parallels, man, to where I was. And I didn't realize it at first. I didn't realize it until actually a long time after. Like, I was noticing stuff. I saw it in the pictures and it was already too late. So we're walking back and I'm starting to get anxious. The guy gives my wife a little tiki necklace. Here's a tiki necklace for you. And he gives me one. Super nice guy, bro. There was nothing wrong. There was nothing ever wrong. I'll put that there. But inside me, the storm was going, and we get ready to go, and I'm standing, she's off looking at something. I'm standing in a corner by an alley in the shadow by the bathroom, like looking, making sure that I'm cornered into a wall. I was doing all the behaviors of hypervigilance, all the things, and I didn't know it. But I was automatic with it, and I had already been on my journey, dude, to heal. I was doing all sorts of stuff that had already helped me. But there we go walking back to our hotel, which is about a mile down the beach. We're just walking. It's beautiful. The weather's gorgeous. The water's perfect. And I'm getting more anxious. My teeth are grinding. We get in front of our hotel. And I'm like, now I'm telling her, my birthday's in 2 days from that point. It was May 19th, whatever. So we're in the water and we're in thigh deep water. It's aqua. There's a swing with people doing the honeymoon stuff. Dude, it's picturesque. It's perfect. It's paradise. We're in the water. We're talking. We got a little drink and we're sharing our time together. And I began to crack. And the tears started coming. And I grabbed her hand and I'm white knuckling her fingers, her hands, standing in this water where nobody else can tell anything's wrong because I got the shades, I got the hat, and I got the bathing suit. I got a couple little abs. The top two were still there, the mint chocolate chip, So, and I'm holding her hand and the water's there, and I had a full-blown panic attack. I couldn't walk it back. I'll shorten it up a little bit. It was heavy. That lasted, it took me a day and a half of concerted effort around the clock without kids in paradise with my wife to myself. A day and a half, 2 days to walk it back to zero and then begin to enjoy my time just to come up to zero. And then by that time, my birthday came around and it was beautiful. She had a little surprise and it was nice, and we finished the trip strong. But I carry that tiki. I don't have the tiki on me, but I keep it, and I wear it every now and again when I'm going to different places because it reminds me when I left that trip, I held on to that tiki and that necklace, and I said, never again is this going to happen to me if I can do anything about it. So sometime within, it was over a year. It was a couple months later in that September. I'm sitting at the kitchen table writing my notes, trying to develop a framework for people to help them go through, right, to make it simple. And she's making spaghetti, and I'm looking at the little YouTube thing, and I'm looking backyard at the kids on the trampoline, and I'm seeing them, but I'm in my notes. And I just start, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I just started writing. If it does this, and I did this, and it was Dominican Republic, and then I chose this, and it was like a third of the page down. I go, It happened because I missed it. My radar missed it. And I go, my radar missed it. Radar, blah, 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 blah. And then like the lightning struck and God's like, here. And he gives me these 5 simple words. I am over. I'm at 6 minutes and 20 seconds. I am over. And I'm like, you know what? Reflect. If I had been reflecting, I would have even pre-reflected on going into the shops to go shopping with her. I would have gotten my mind fortified. You know, we talk about the armor of God. Radar helps you equip yourself with the armor of God on an ongoing basis if that's how you choose to use it. I do. Other people can use this to find anything. You can use this to determine your priorities if you have a difficult decision to make, because it helps you align your outside life with your internal values, which is the reason you live fulfilled in this world. If you are experiencing a lack of fulfillment, discontentment, it's not because you're an ungrateful person, most likely. It's probably because your outside is simply misaligned with what you believe in your core, in your heart, in your values. You're not doing those things that are aligned. And radar helps you, it helps you just find your blind spots. It helps guard from that sneaky ass sabotage. And it helps you get centered on who you are. And I tell people, it actually, for me in my faith walk, it actually helps me determine the will of God at lightning speed compared to before.
Wow, that's so good. And I love what you said about feeling out of line. It's like there's not something wrong with you. It's just that what's going on outside and inside isn't aligned right now. And that's something you can change. And it's actionable. That's so good.
Yep. You know, I lean on conditioning a lot, and I want to shine a spotlight on this real briefly, and that is, why does that happen, or how does that happen? Why would I do things that are inconsistent with what I believe? No, I'm not. I'm doing what I believe in. If you've never done the work to see, if you look at all the things that you believe and all the actions and all the patterns that you have, and you start simply using your radar to go, is this the people who's raised me ideas, or are they truly mine, independently broken down, deconstructed, and reformed, and I know they're mine? There are things that my mom and dad drilled into me that I believe in on my own now. Like saying excuse me when you walk in front of someone who's looking at coffee in the grocery aisle. Like, if you walk in front of someone and they're looking at something, say excuse me. I was telling my mom about this week. And then there's other things my mom and dad say, my dad used to say all the time. The hour is the dollar, the almighty dollar. If there's an hour to work, you go work it. Well, I don't believe in the philosophy wholesale of trading my time for money, because there's only so much time, and that doesn't bring enough money. And then that goes another way, right? So I reject that idea. I believe in building things that create time and money, so you can spend your time on your priorities if that's what you want to do, being your family or serving other people in your business. Like, when time and money are relieved as like these limitations, that changes. And that's from my mom and dad. And that's held me back to the point of 45, and my money's not where I want it to be, but I know it comes from the conditioning. I don't blame them. I take responsibility and I go try to do it the way that I want to. So the incongruency, that's how it happens. That's why I try to be a little bit clever with the mistaken identity. That's what that means. You got to figure out what yours is.
Yeah. And so the first two in radar, there was your reflection, there was your choice, or am I missing?
So it's awareness.
Awareness. Okay. Reflection and awareness. Okay. Yep. Is radar a full acronym? Is there a DAR? What do those stand for?
Super briefly, something's coming, you're reflecting on it, which we do that all day long. It's called our self-talk. It's what we're thinking about, but we're doing this I teach people how to do it with intention, which changes it. You're doing it with intentionality, right? So intentionality, radar, you reflect, that brings a higher level of awareness, just because most people, like Henry Ford said, thinking's the hardest thing you'll ever do. That's why so few people do it. If you think a little bit intentionally, which I call reflection, you're going to raise your awareness in that area automatically. From there, we have the D, which is time to determine. Off of the back of determine, it's kind of a D squared. You determine whether it's serving your goals for your core values, or it works against you. Now we're starting to find the conditioning that's working against us, creating the sabotage. That's how that comes up. From there, the D squared part is kind of like there's a time where you got to make a decision now. But that actually comes at the next letter, which is the next A, and that's adjust. You got to take the step, one step right in front of you. His word is a lamp to our feet. It's not a spotlight to our life. You look at the next step and you adjust according to what you just determined. The last R is, I call it repetition, but because people are going to skip over it because they hear the word repetition, I call this the framework of divine repetition. Because if you're going to repeat things, you want to do it in a way that you grow spiritually. You want to grow it physically, mind, body, spirit. We're a three-part being here, people. So you don't just repeat to do rote repetition. That's what our grandfathers did in the factories. We're thankful for them that they did that. We're not doing that. We're going to grow. We're going to evolve and change. And because of that, you have to have intention, and you have to join that, yoke it with awareness. When you do that, you're going to get exponential speed. You're going to get exponential results because you have the intention with the awareness. And when you harness that power and you run your radar about everything, a friend invited you to a birthday thing over at the lake. Okay, well, what does the rest of my weekend look like? Now I'm reflecting. Don't just say yes. Good. And then you're stressing out trying to live up to expectations. And I say that because I got this very thing this weekend. My kid has a travel tournament for baseball. He's got 2 games Saturday morning, 2 games Sunday morning. And we were invited to a dear friend's birthday 2 hours north of that place, which is already an hour north of our house. It adds so much extra weight. And I used radar. I reflected. Is this even good for Gage? Like, he's going to go do this thing at the lake, but then he's got to still go perform. And it's a big opportunity because it's against an MLB coach's team. So it's huge. So we reflected, and that raised my awareness about what else is going on. I determined, is this going to hurt us or is this going to help us? And can we still help our friends or be there and not hurt us? It has to be a win-win, people. It's got to be good for both, really. We're not running a charity. I'm thinking of all these disclaimers. But anyway, and that's what happens. And I made the adjustment, and we let them know, like, we love you, man. It's unfortunate. It's a rough weekend. And they had understanding. So our results, I'm not living up to expectations. We don't have to let them down. We don't have to do it and stress ourselves out. It's over. And it can help you heal from trauma.
Dang. Okay, that's cool. That's really, really cool. So coming from something that was a deep, deep need in your life, seeing something as like a trigger for a panic attack that you had, all the way to a simple decision on whether or not I should choose to do this one thing. That's a powerful framework, man. And I just want to say for everyone,
I received it.
Dude, okay, see, that's what's so cool. And I think that once we realize that frameworks are just a repeatable piece of action or a thought process, is it can free someone's mind up to think, like, there's a framework inside of you. Like, if you're listening to this, and I do think it's really, really helpful, like, having these frameworks, because what allows you to do is then teach a young person to duplicate it. And teaching young people, not only, with you and I, Adam, being people of faith, is discipleship is our mission. But even if you're not a Christian, you understand discipleship or repeating yourself as scalability. How are you going to grow past yourself and make an impact beyond your years that you have here on this earth? And the answer is that scalability, that repeatability, and frameworks allow you to do that. So I love the radar framework, man. That's cool. That's really, really cool. And good. I know we're getting close on time, so I want to know what are you working on that we should be looking out for, and then where can we go to check out more of what you're doing? And I'll preface this: you have been generous that you're gonna give us a couple gifts too. So just let us know where we can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity of it. And for people, like, I'm 17 years. My transformation began taking place from drugs when I met a mentor in 2007. And that my wife and I got divorced on Valentine's Day that year. We ended up getting remarried, and those things did happen. And our journey's been awesome, and it's been wild. And I've made money doing coaching. I've made money doing consulting. But in perspective of how long, that's, if you're following the math at home, that's 17 and a half years plus. And I've never done this for the money first, or even to grow the awareness of me first. I do have that charge now to get the message out the way the disciples had to with Jesus and go tell the world. But I still don't look at it in such a way like the average person that you might hear in mainstream pop marketing, online podcast stuff. So I say that to say my heart is really about what I'm about to share. I don't care if anybody finds me anywhere. What I want them to do is hit the links that you're going to provide them for the lead magnet that I provided you, right? The freebie gift. We're not supposed to say lead magnet in front of the leads. No, my agenda is that anybody who this resonates with, I want them on my email list so I can talk to them and help them more, because this will change your freaking household. This will change your marriage. This will change your relationship with your kids. This will change your relationship with your parents. I have 2 adult kids now, and they can give testimonies. And the younger boys say, Dad, you haven't yelled in like 2 years. I know, it's awesome. But so I say that to say this: go get the freaking lead magnet, download Radar, start using it to bless your own life. And if you have some kind of call inside you, use it to be inspired and start praying about what yours should be. Because good artists borrow, but great artists steal everything. And you can use my stuff to like find the path to yours even. But first of all, first and foremost, why wouldn't you just want to sleep a little bit more peaceful at night and be a little bit more excited about your day when you wake up? Go to tools.adamkasix.com/radar, and it's there. Totally free for the price of an email. Monetarily free. No expectations, no hounding. You are going to go on my email list, and I'm super infrequent with that. Like, you're going to get a handful of emails a quarter, and I'm telling some kind of deep story, or I'm letting you know what else is coming. The book is getting written right now. We don't have a real name for it, but the name or the subtitle name that I've had in my heart since 2008-9, when I was charged with writing this book, when it was time to write it, is Jesus, Drugs, and the American Dream. Because that's the big highlights of my story, right? And I don't know if that'll be it. It might be called something else, but a story of Jesus, Drugs, and the American Dream, no matter what. But the other thing is, so that's the downloadable they can start using right now on their phone, and it will make their day better. If they're an intentional person, if they're on purpose, this tool will bless you immediately if you use it, guaranteed. The other thing is, if someone is liking, if they're resonating and think that maybe I have something to offer in some kind of area that we've talked about today, I want them to go to basically that, I put it on there. What link did I give you? There's a handful of routes to get there.
The discovery call, you have a free call for them maybe?
Okay. Yeah. So it's a free coaching or strategy.
I have a link.
Okay.
I have a link for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll put that in there, and that again, it'll go right to my calendar. Oh, it's chat.adamkasix.com/discovery call.
That's the one. Yep.
Yep. Chat.adamkasix.com/discovery call. I'm going to give you my absolute best in that time. If I think we're a fit, I'll talk about whether or not you want to do coaching and what that could look like and what my stuff looks like. If I don't think we're a fit or you're uncomfortable, you're going to get as much blessing to that as you would if I thought you were a fit, because like I am here to follow the path that God has me walking, helping who I'm supposed to. And he determines who that is. And I do a really good job these days of not blowing people out, staying out of his way, and serving who I'm supposed to serve. I'm not here for a transaction.
That's good. That's good. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate
Thank you, man.
I'm
hoping somebody got lit up today.
Right, they're going to be hollering in their cars like, woo, on the way to work Monday morning. So this has been great. For everyone listening to the Drug Prevention Power Hour, this has been another episode. If you love this show, please leave a review. If you don't love the show, don't leave a review.
Yeah, find one you love.
Find one you love, leave a review on that one. Hit up Adam if you want to continue the conversation. Check out that Radar framework. I know that that's going to be helpful for me, just like a cool teaching tool. And I love the decision-making aspect. It's kind of helpful for everybody. So You can go and download that. I'll have the links below. And I'm going to keep up with what Adam's up to these days and just encouraging one another. So for everyone who does listen to this podcast, it's because you influence the lives of young people around you. Keep up that great work. Don't let anything stop you when the season is here for you to dive in and be doing this difficult, sometimes not really rewarding work on the surface. Just remember the stories like today of when someone learned something by a mentor or a friend long ago, and then it became important years later. You're there to plant that seed. So keep up the great work, and we'll see you next Monday for another episode.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Drug Prevention Power Hour podcast. If you love the show, make sure to leave a review and share what you've learned. And if you need help reducing substance use among youth by educating and engaging students in prevention, visit vive18.com for more information, tools, and resources.